Hello, in this presentation we will create a purchase order with a new item, adding a new item, a new inventory item while creating the purchase order within QuickBooks Pro 2018. If you've been following along with us, we're going to continue with the Get Great Guitars problem. If not, that is okay. We will be creating a purchase order, and as we create the purchase order, we will be adding a new item and a new customer in that process. If you have the backup up to this point, you can restore the backup, file and restore. Also have the open windows open over here. So if you want to have the open windows, which I suggest having, we go to view and open windows list. We currently only have the home tab open. In order to open the home tab, go to company and home tab. That's where we are currently located within the software. If you're working with us, it's important to have the data up to date up to this point, but if not, you can still take a look at what is happening here in terms of purchasing a new purchase order in order to order new inventory, that inventory being new inventory. So what we're going to do here, the scenario is we're going to create a purchase order. Remember what a purchase order is a request that we're basically sending to our vendor, the people that we purchase from. In our case, we're purchasing guitars, and so we're requesting a guitar from our particular vendor. As we set up the purchase order, we're going to create a new vendor, and we're going to create a new item for a new guitar that we are going to create. Remember that the purchase order is a bit different than most other items on the entire homepage because the purchase order does not have an actual journal entry behind it, meaning when we create the purchase order, no accounts are going up or down. We're not debiting or crediting anything, or QuickBooks is not debiting or crediting anything. It's just a request. We haven't got the inventory and we have not paid for the inventory. In other words, it's different than when we have our personal purchases from something like Amazon, where we typically pay with a credit card or some other form of payment at the point of purchase, and then we receive the inventory. If we're purchasing a lot from vendors, oftentimes the purchase order then will not have the payment included and will not have the inventory, of course, received at the point of purchase, so it's a bit different there. And then once we receive the inventory, then we'll record the bill that has received. So at the point of the purchase order, just a request, no payment has happened, no transaction. Let's see the purchase order. We're going to click on the purchase order, and we're going to have a new vendor. So if we select the drop down, we're saying here's the vendors. We're going to select a new vendor. In essence, what happened is we had a customer come in and say, I'd like this new guitar. It's going to be a Fender guitar. I don't see those in the store here. We're going to say that's okay. We can order from Fender and order that guitar for you. So we're going to set up a purchase order for this new vendor. So we're going to type in Fender is the new vendor, and we're going to say tab. Now I'm going to type it in there rather than selecting add new, just typing in the new vendor, and then we're going to select tab, and it's going to say we don't have that vendor set up. Would you like to set them up? We're going to say yes, and we're going to go with the quick add instead of the setting up the full process so we can go through this problem a bit faster. So quick add, not including the address and all the other phone number and contact information, but being enough to create the purchase order. So we're going to say quick add. We're going to say drop ship. We're going to keep that blank. We're going to say it's the template. That's what we want there. The date that we will then have will be the 9th. So I'm going to say I'm on the 6th right now of the current year. This is the year that we will be working this problem in. I'm going to just select the plus button to move it up to the 9th. So that's a little bit faster if you get used to doing that. Then we're going to go to the purchase order number. We got the vendor, and we've got our information. Now we're going to have to put in the new purchase order information, a new item. Remember that the item is the actual inventory item. If we select the items, we will not have the inventory item here because it's going to be new. It would be somewhere in the inventory parts list. So we're going to create a new one, and it's going to be called a Squire. We're going to abbreviate it SQ for the item name, and we're going to select tab, and it's going to ask us, do we want to set that up? And of course, we're going to say, yes, we do. So we'll set up this new item. This is a piece of inventory that we're setting up. We have the drop down here, so we're going to say it's going to be an inventory part, That is correct. So the default is correct. We're going to have the item name here. This is going to be the short name. So just our quick name, the SQ, and we're going to give it the subtitle, manufacturer part number. We don't have one. The full description, Squire, is going to be the full description. Let me do that one more time. That's going to be the full description. Tabbing through the rest here, it will populate over here automatically. That's what we want. Then we of course need the cost and the sales field. So we're going to say this is the cost, is what we buy them for, $168. We're going to tab down. We got the cost of goods sold. That's going to be the income statement account that is affected when we sell this item. And then the other side, of course, the sales price. That's what we purchase them for. That's what we sell them for. That's going to be $244. We do have sales tax on this account, so we have to record the sales tax for this. The preferred vendor then is going to be Fender. So Fender is going to be our preferred vendor. And then we have the income tax account is going to be merchandise sales. So when we make the sale, it's going to increase merchandise sales by the 244, and that will increase sales by 244 and increase the cost of goods sold expense by 168, the difference being the effect on net income. So that's going to be that. We're going to say okay. It's going to ask if we want to add that to our list. We're going to say yes. And so there it is. We have our new item, description, quantity. We're going to say that we're purchasing one of these, and we're purchasing it for a specific customer. Now remember, you don't have to have a customer field here for buying in bulk. We might not have any customers. We might be buying it for the store. But we can have a customer if we're purchasing this purchase order for a particular customer. And then when we create the invoice, at the point in time that we're completing the process, delivering the guitar to the customer, we can pull this information from the purchase order automatically to the invoice, save us some time with that process. We're going to say it's new music stuff is going to be the name of the store that we will be setting up. And again, it's a new customer, so we're just going to type that in. It's not going to be in the drop down. And once we say tab, we're going to set up this new customer. Now, again, I'm going to use the quick add just so we can move forward with this. That's all we need for the purchase order. However, if it were a new customer, we would probably want the address and make sure that we have everything in our database program within QuickBooks. But we're going to say quick add here in order to just have enough information for the purchase order. Then I'm going to say save and new. We're going to record this with a save and new. And we're going to record one other purchase order, and that's just going to be our normal store purchase order for the information for the stocking the store for the guitars within the store, meaning we're not going to have a customer related to it. So for that, we're going to purchase an Epiphone, and that's going to be our vendor. We're going to tab through this. We're going to keep the date, keep the purchase order number, vendor, our information the same. We're purchasing an ELP, so we can type that in, and the amount should, or the specific inventory item should populate as we type, as it has. And that will be the description. We're going to buy 3 of these at $400, and that's going to give us the $1,200. Note here, this is in contrast to what we have just done. The vendor that we typically use are one of our normal vendors, the item already in place, giving us the description already in place. We're going to buy 3 of them for the store as opposed to for a particular customer, and therefore not need to record anything in the customer field. Then we have the total here. That's what we expect to pay. Remember that neither of these are actually being paid. Neither of these have actually been received. This is informational data within QuickBooks, data not being present, not being recorded on the financial statements in terms of the balance sheet and the profit and loss. So we're going to say save and close, and those will be our purchases for this time.